I'm asking you.
How many people?
You asked the question. Here's a statement.
None of us can answer, honestly. None of us were involved.
Any of them?
Why should I know? Do you know what?
Scott Peters was convicted by 12 jury members of killing his wife based on circumstantial evidence, based on the fact that he was screwing another woman, his wife was about to have a baby, he's with a boat with cement in it, put two and two together. You don't need a direct evidence of a person coming forward going, I did it, okay?
You don't need any direct evidence. So what evidence do you have?
Okay,
Photoshop?
I'm telling you,
Photoshop? What do you
I'm telling you about the firefighters who testified at the 9/11 Commission, okay? I'm talking about Von Essen, the fire commissioner, who took statements of all the firefighters afterwards of 115 people talking about multiple explosions. 115 firefighters testified there were bombs in the building.
The deputy chief of safety, Benny Jennings. Joycey, here, hold this, hold this.
Sir, what are you talking about?
Sir, deputy chief of safety,
No,
Benny
I
Jennings.
just want to know. Maybe you are right.
Benny Jennings.
Right.
Give me one person. Okay,
Everybody,
the
research
testimony.
Benny Jennings.
Let me
Deputy
give you the
chief of
testimony. Let me
safety.
give you the testimony.
Hey,
Let me give you the testimony of the
I got
secretary
proof for you
of
right here.
Benny Jennings.
I got proof for you right here.
Guys, let me give you the testimony.
Are you a LaRouche person?
I'm a human person.
Are you a LaRouche person?
No, we're not LaRouche. I'm a conservative Republican and voted for Bush twice.
Doesn't matter where we are.
Okay.
You asked the
Once
question.
again, are you a LaRouche
You got to
person?
answer, right?
Are you a LaRouche
No, but did I answer your question? You said that did somebody know about the bombs? I said Benny Jennings, the deputy chief of safety, he's risking his pension fund, saying that there was bombs
there were
in Building
bombs in the
7,
building.
in Building 7, and Building 7 wasn't hit by a plane.
Building 7 had a lot of diesel.
Right, they fell under 6 seconds, hours later.
Right, and diesel fuel is not explosive,
Right,
by the way.
and actually floor by floor.
The building did not
Right,
explode. The
right,
building went
but
on
if you
fire.
watch it, floor by floor pops out, one by one going upward.
I want to
Okay, listen, I'm going to give you a piece of evidence. I'm going to give you a piece of evidence. I'm going to give you a piece of evidence. Well, you're not listening. Now listen, I'm about to give you...
The more crazy the theory, the more you bring evidence. You cannot say,
That's right.
No, I think.
That's right. So now I'm about to give you a piece of evidence. Now I'm about to give you a piece of evidence.
Now listen.
All right.
Now listen.
I'm going to give you a piece of evidence. All right. Now, we know that the most protected airspace in this country is Washington, D.C., okay? We know that it takes an intercontinental ballistic missile 20 minutes to go from Russia to the United States. Yes, we do. Okay. So we know that there's air defenses around D.C. Now,
You don't.
Now, the Secretary of Transportation testified. The Secretary of Transportation testified. I'm telling you testimony from the Secretary of Transportation.
What did he say?
He said that he arrived at the PIOC, the bunker under the White House, and that Cheney was there, and that a young Pentagon officer came in and said, Mr. Vice President, the plane is 50 miles out. Mr. Vice President, the plane is 40 miles out.
The
Mr. Vice President, the plane, I'm giving you the testimony of the Secretary of Transportation of this country in front of the 9/11 Commission.
Okay.
And when he got down to the plane is 10 miles out, he begged the Vice President, saying, does the order still stand? And the Vice President, in his words, said,
You need to shout.
I
I can't
whipped
hear
my
you.
head back in the chair and said, of course the order still stands. Have you heard anything to the contrary? My question to you is, how does the most protected air defense system in the whole world fail after an hour and 20 minutes with the Vice President being notified that the plane is down? That's one thing. You want to spend 10 hours here? I'll give you 1,000 things.
Not right to answer.
You know why? Because
Okay, let me
war games.
What
The
I want-
exact same thing happened at the exact same time.
Let him speak now. Let him speak.
Your rebuttal. Your rebuttal.
Get me some people that put the bombs in the
People
building.
is not going to come to talk
Get
to
some
you.
people.
Who are you to
Get me
talk to?
somebody.
You expect them to come to you and tell you that?
Oh, like Osama bin Laden?
Maybe get me
Let's
some
go get
people.
him.
Somebody put the bomb in the
Hey,
building. Give me
This was
somebody.
published in the New York Times.
gonna stop.
These are the words of the actual firefighters, okay? The Port Authority went around and asked everyone that had anything to do with that, all the rescue workers, what happened. These are their statements. Oral histories of 9/11. Go to the New York Times own website. I just remembered there was an explosion. It seemed like on television when they blow up these buildings, it seems like it was going all the way around the building like a belt. All these explosions.
Stop,
Richmond and Chesky,
What was-
firefighter, FDNY,
so
ladder 22.
You're
Okay,
conceding
look.
that 115 firefighters did video depositions available on the New York Times website in which they described multiple explosions inside the building. Are you conceding that?
No.
Are you conceding that? You're not conceding that. I I cannot even have a rational conversation.
Go to the New York Times website and look at oral histories of 9/11. You can read the firefighters' own words.
Get off your LSD. Get off your LSD. Your friend is dead. Like
Maybe he should take some.
As soon as we got out of the train station, people were screaming and crying and yelling, and it was just total chaos. And the bottom of our building was blown out.
At 10:30, I tried to leave the building, but as soon as I got outside, I heard a second explosion and another rumble and more smoke and more dust. I ran inside the buildings, the chandeliers shook, and again, black smoke filled the air. Within another 5 minutes, we were covered again with more silt and more dust. And then a fire marshal came in and said we had to leave because if there was a third explosion, this building might not last. The streets of the financial district covered with debris, in some cases ankle deep. Cars on fire, cars just turned by the force of the explosions. It was like something no one had ever seen.
All right, thanks very much, NBC's Ann Thompson. But let me ask you, after you finally emerged from that building, what about other people who could not get into a building? What kind of casualties did you see?
Tom, I will tell you that when I walked out of the building on Broadway and headed down towards Canal, it was as if there had been a blizzard of debris and dust all over the street. I saw people running, I was walking, there were a lot of rescue people there, but there were people injured. I saw a woman being carried by two men. It was like something I had never seen anything like it, and all I could think of was just to get away from there, to get to safety. And as I kept walking to Canal Street, I could hear yet another explosion behind me. It was truly one of the most frightening moments I've ever lived through.
He's Ron Insana, who went down with a cameraman hoping to get close to the World Trade Center, and then it began to come down. The first one. Ron, take us through what you experienced.
Well, Tom, much of the area had been, in fact, cordoned off, and the cameraman from MSNBC and I were trying to get across to the west side of the World Trade Center in order to hook up with the rest of the NBC crews that we knew were there. As we were moving towards the building, we saw the top begin to blow out in a plume of smoke, and we heard the noise associated with an implosion. We turned and immediately ran for cover in the other direction as debris began to rain down.
The full impact was seen in the moment in time. My colleague Stephen Evans, who was in the Trade Center and was interviewed just after the first explosion.
There was another big explosion in the other tower. Flames coming out in this billowing grey smoke. People still not panicking. People not quite understanding what was going on. Then somebody said that they saw an airliner go into one of those towers. Then, I don't know, an hour later than that, we had that big explosion from much lower. I don't know what on earth caused that. The thing that strikes me is, one, the terribleness of the incident, whatever the cause, and we don't go into politics, but whatever the cause, the terribleness, the hugeness of what's happened. So huge, in fact, that most of the people around simply can't understand what happened. People were just standing around, talking to each other, nodding their heads.
Oh my God. We gotta go. Oh my God.
Pentagon. The day before 9/11, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld declared war, not on foreign terrorists.
The adversary is closer to home. It's the Pentagon bureaucracy.
He said money wasted by the military poses a serious threat.
In fact, it could be said that it's a matter of life and death.
Rumsfeld promised change, but the next day, the world changed. And in the rush to fund the war on terrorism, the war on waste seems to have been forgotten.
My 03 budget calls for more than $48 billion in new defense spending.
More money for the Pentagon when its own auditors admit the military cannot account for 25% of what it already spends.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
$2.3 trillion with a T. That's $8,000 for every man, woman, and child in America.